So you mentioned earlier, working with the FDA, and of course, I'm going to throw in the USDA involved with that. They are in the business of controlling the pharmaceutical industry, which has become a behemoth, not just in the United States, but really worldwide. Mm-hmm. And, a common libertarian joke is all the alphabet agencies, right? So you can throw the FDA in there as well. Do you see the FDA, are they actually, well, to put it frankly, are they doing good work, or are they just frustrating the problem more? What would you say?
Well, I think probably before 1962, I would give them higher marks. But what's happened since 62, one of the things the 62 amendments did is it made somebody at the FDA sign off on the drug approval. Before that, the pharmaceutical companies would send their information to the FDA, and if 6 months passed and the FDA didn't object, then you could market your drug. So generally, people waited 7 months and then marketed their drug. Mm-hmm. Well, when you have to sign on the dotted line and you're at the FDA, you know that every drug has side effects of some sort. And one day, a drug that you approve is going to have side effects that come to the attention of the American public, and Congress is going to beat up on you because their voter bloc is beating up on them and saying, why isn't the FDA protecting us? Well, of course, the reason the FDA isn't protecting us is that we don't know enough science to predict from animal studies and a small group of humans every side effect. So yes, these drugs are going to be problematic on occasion. So what the FDA started to do is demanding more and more and more studies. To give you an example of how many more, before the 62 amendments, it took about 4 years for a drug to go from the lab bench to the marketplace once it was decided that the company wanted to market it. Today, it takes between 10 and 12 years, and the peak was about 14 years. And then to shorten that time, what happened is the FDA started charging the pharmaceutical firms user fees, what they call user fees, which started out at $100,000 a drug. They're now something like $2.7 million per drug. In other words, the people who are funding the part of the FDA that approves drugs are actually being paid now. More than half their salary is coming from the pharmaceutical industry. And so what's happened, for example, in the Vioxx case, which was probably the biggest drug disaster that ever hit the US, there was some evidence already that Vioxx was causing heart attacks. In fact, one of the FDA examiners said, we cannot approve this and put it on the market, and was told, by his superior, our client is the pharmaceutical industry. Notice, he didn't say the American public, didn't say Congress, because now the pharmaceutical industry is paying their freight, so to speak. So, of course, the FDA is going to look at things that way. And that's very scary because now, the FDA is going to side more with the pharmaceutical industry. In other words, the pharmaceutical industry has now co-opted the FDA to a large extent. Now, does that mean that that's unethical? Well, it is a big conflict of interest. In fact, it's such a big conflict of interest, it would not be tolerated if it were in the private sector. And this is true really for all government if you think about it. The politicians get their campaign money from lobbyists who represent industries that expect a payoff. When these people get elected, they expect legislation to be in their favor. So this is not, quote, unusual, but it's very unethical the way that we have our government set up and how we have, it's unethical really for government to be able to do things that the average person can't, and that's the whole problem with government is allowed to make laws that favor one company, for example, over another, and they profit from it. They, meaning the politicians or the government. So, that would be a huge conflict of interest in the private industry. It would not be tolerated.